Source Hunters, I welcome you once again to the realm of Rivellon after your travels through the chasms of space. Nice to have found a shelter, wouldn't you agree, where you can come to no harm. I know the imp historian has told you about his agent on Rivellon, and that agent is I. So now that you know of the alliance between me and Sir Zixzax, let us turn to the business at hand. Starstone. And I'll be delighted to give it. Dark webs are being woven around these parts, and it is my firm belief starstones are the flies the sorcerer's spiders are trying to catch. It can therefore hardly be a coincidence that Councillor Jake was a collector of the stones we seek. His foul murder and the plight of dying time must somehow be interconnected. That means the task you have been given remains crucial. Find the assassin that did away with Jake, for you're bound to stumble upon Starstone along the way. While you were being lectured by our friend the historian and the grande dame of time, I snuck into his house and had a look around. The advantage of being a cat, you know. You go where you please with impunity. And sometimes the lady of the house even rewards you with a slice of fresh herring. That's where I saw them in a cabinet. Mere slivers, but specks of starstones nonetheless. They lay there, silent and innocent, though bloody murder may have been committed in their name. Don't we all long for a sanctuary where our worldly troubles can be held at bay? A bed or a basket so snug it becomes, in a word, safety. But perhaps I speak only for myself, not for veterans such as yourselves that by necessity call any patch of ground they rest upon home. Like any cat worth its salt, though, I deeply cherish a secret refuge unbeknownst to anyone. To be able to repose without a care is such a precious circumstance, savored all too seldomly. Let me phrase it like Zixzax might. A universe without time is like a pen without ink. A pointless instrument stripped of the potential of creation. It is void. It is death. It is nothing. I'll not pretend to have all the answers, or that I understand all that is happening here and out there among the stars. But I do know I'd rather err on the side of caution. If Zixzax worries, I worry. We are talking about a creature, after all, that has reclined among the divines as nonchalantly as you and I laze beside the hearths of home. I met him first, a long time ago, out in the wastes of Youthful Gore. He wondered aloud what on earth a cat was doing out there in the scorching desert, then shared what little food and water he had with him. So I told him who I was and showed him my human form. He laughed and marveled and told me stories about his travels. In the end, he even shared his great sorrow with me. The unspeakable thing you saw through his looking lens. I was awed and frightened, but swore to help him in any way I could. As of now, that includes helping the two of you. Oh, before you go, here, take this teleporter pyramid. A handy toy indeed that Zixzax asked me to give to you. You'll need the other one too if you want to make use of its powers, but alas, I seem to have misplaced it. Don't worry though. Use this one here and it'll take you straight to its twin. Now that this matter has been settled, Hunters, I shall detain you no longer. But rest assured, I'll do my share of hunting too. So if you spot a white cat during your travels, do stop to say hello.
Unknown to all time, are you? Leave it to an imp to try to fill our minds with all manner of magical gobbledygook. I'll tell you who you are. Source Hunters. Members of the most esteemed order in Rivellon, here to find out and grind out every last speck of dark magic in the realm. There, the enigma is solved.
Now, where is my pepper? Did it sprout legs and run away?
Ah, there it is. What are you? You think I'm... No, comrade. You can keep the honor of being the object of the Space Im's special interest all to yourself. I just hope this fancy of yours doesn't interfere with your real job, or have you forgotten that little detail already? You're a source hunter first, last, and always, comrade.
Ah, how intolerable it is to think that all the knowledge of the world is being gathered by an imp. A creature that is no more than the result of a demon's bowel movement imbued with the breath of life. And yet I am a tad jealous of that jabbering little jester. To know all. It is a consummation devoutly to be wished. You'll rue the day you lend your trust to anything that is demon-touched. But this particular specimen, it delights in scholarship. A quality, I must admit, that highly speaks to its advantage. Let us learn, Hunter, whether you like it or not, and through wisdom grow ever more mighty.
Oh, how nice it is of you, the very picture of youth, to break the monotony of an elder's day. Wild away on this hardwood bench. Pray, let me be forward with you, O sapling rose, O leaf of spring, for my weary mind is troubled, and would highly prize thy gentle-handed assistance, thy kind ministrations. I am but an aged elf, that has seen the years parade in long succession. Gladly shall I tell you more. Will I regale thee, O whelp of men, with my tale? But not here, where the winds may steal my words. You would listen to my grievances, guide me towards untroubled realms. Oh, you are truly a wonder, O budding flower of the morn. Yet that which I would tell you is of a rather private nature. So let us escape both the chill and the eye of public scrutiny. Hot spiced wine and a snug little room awaits us on the King Crab's first floor. Let us go there, so that we can warm our bones, yet make shiver our hearts with a tale of loss and sorrow.
So, what's the bad news? More orcs rampaging through the docks? Or have those infernal statues sent another soul flying to his death? This here's my family business. Yes, there's been a Roberts escorting stiffs into the next life since the foundation of Seal itself. They don't write epics about morticians, but I'm proud of my work nonetheless. Sad story, that. Though if I'm speaking plainly, the sentimental aspect of it all doesn't make much of an impression on an undertaker. Especially not these days, with so many laid low by the orcs and such like. I just concern myself with giving the remains a respectable exit from life. We set him to rest in the northern graveyard. Perhaps he can finally get a little peace. What about it? Didn't I just say we gave it a respectable send-off? Why are you giving me the 3rd degree? Now, if you don't mind, I'm trying to run a business here.
Hey, wow! I was wondering where that awesome sweaty boot smell was coming from. And here you are! Wow! This is great! I'm Murphy, Jake's dog. Wow, you smell great! Have you been rolling around on dead things all day? That's my favourite hobby too. You know who I miss? Jake. Sometimes he'd just sit there being awesome. And I'd give him this look like, you smell great. And he'd give me this look like, you do too, Murphy. And he was my best friend. I came here so I could smell Jake again. He smelled great. But whatever's buried there doesn't smell like Jake at all. No, it's definitely not Jake. He was awesome. if I ever find out who killed Jake, the most awesome Jake who ever jaked, I'll bark so much! Seriously, so much! You have no idea! Woo!
This dog we met, how true a creature he is. How loyal and unwavering in its affections. His master is dead, but not even this, not even nature's great betrayal of life, stops his warm-heartedness from beating. Animals, dog and deer, elk and eagle. We burden and butcher them, wretches that we are. These pillars of creation, we topple them, though their spirits are so very pure. They do not scheme, they do not deceive. Perfidy, that is the human condition. This kind, this trusty beast, he is man's best friend, though man does not deserve one.
Jake, where are you? Are you here, Jake? Jake!
Wise words. To approach humanity with the same distrust as one would approach a grinning goblin is to be ready for the stab that is to follow. I know, for I have lain on silken cushions in marble palaces, and I have lain on wet leaves in soggy forests. Vastly do I prefer the latter. Oh, the occasional thorn may pierce your skin, but at least you are aware the sting is not that of a poisoned needle hidden by aspiring rivals. In the animal kingdom only one is free. Beware the wolf, yes, beware the bear, but their rules are honest. The kingdoms of man, they are built upon the blood of the ones not strong enough to lay claim to power. This dog, it is a creature worthy of your affection. The ones you see around you, the men and women of this world, they are not.
Everything we do seems to fortify your abilities.
I suppose your example has inspired me to reach heights I'd never before envisioned.
That inspiration hardly flows one way, my friend.
You see a shady-looking figure fishing coins of gold out of the muddy water that pools beneath the well overhead. His movements are quick and nervous, but nevertheless, he seems to enjoy stuffing what cash he can find into the many pockets of his shabby garb. So absorbed is he in his coin hoarding that at first he doesn't notice your presence. Suddenly, though, he pauses, looks up, and quick as a cat its talons, readies 2 daggers. Your friendly tone of voice has immediate effect. The man quickly relaxes his aggressive stance, sheathes his weapons, and pulls a quill and a scrap of parchment out of one of his pockets. Dexterously, he writes down a couple of phrases, then holds it out for you to read.
Mute, can't speak. You look professional. You the source hunter the wizard asked for?
Excitedly, the man turns over the scrap and pens a few more lines.
Name's Woolgraf. I admire you. No hero like source hunter. Sizey or dead end. Please let me join you.
Woolgraf nods enthusiastically and pulls a couple of ripped parchment pieces out from his vestments. Hastily, he covers them with words and pushes them in your hands, one after the other.
Been mute since I was a kid. Sorcerers took my voice. People think I'm stupid. I'm not. Get money, food where I can. Steal if I must. Not from poor folks. I'm a good sneak, good fighter, good with locks. See things you don't. Want to help you. I'm useful. Want to catch sorcerers. Make 'em pay. Please.
Woolgraf eagerly catches your gaze with the best puppy eyes imitation he can muster.
I could use someone with your specific type of expertise. Consider yourself hired.
Be welcome, Woolgraf. Riches await, if you'll obtain them for us.
Woolgraf smiles and shakes your hand in thanks. With a gesture of the arm, he seems to say, "I'm ready. Lead the way."
An invigorating fight that was. And what a killing blow you delivered.
Cheers! Yes, I handled myself like the best of the best. even if I do say so myself.
No need for false modesty where none is needed. You're a born source hunter, and that's a fact.
You say you will take me under your wing, but I see no feathers. Are you a child of the birds, as I am of the bears? In truth, this is a relief. Your world is made with rules I have not yet memorized. I am happy to have a friend in such a place. And so the lonely babe was fed upon the wild mother's milk, and cast aside from humankind, he thrived among his mother's ilk. So says the saga of Thris. Do you know it? The wise godwolf Amira raised the child Thris among her litter. So you see, I have good company. Thris the wolfson, and I the bear daughter. Ask freely, my friend. Your city is far more wild than Home Forest. In Home Forest, the rules are clear. In Home Forest, your strength and speed determine your fate. Here, a tiny screech woman, no swifter than a mudworm, might confine you into a tiny cage, and one must wait for a kind stranger to grant freedom. Jarrett, wise Jarrett, taught me the bird songs of our people. If not for him, I would never have learned more than the beasts could teach me. A beast's life is to survive. A human's is to know. I am both beast and human, and so I must do both. I have learned all the bird song that Jarrett could teach. I remembered every word. These tales have brought me much pleasure. The remembering of the beasts is without lies. We know not to approach the wasp's nest because long ago one bear mother discovered its dangers. This she taught to her cubs, and those cubs taught the next. We do not remember Rito and the battle of the buzzing brutes. We remember only what is useful to us now. Rito will be forgotten. The beauty of the story will be forgotten. But the lesson will not. It is different between beasts and humans. I am lucky to enjoy both ways. He came to me when I was small, a fierce, wild one, yet unaware of the difference between the other cubs and herself. He called to me in a soft song. At first I thought him a great bird. We each reached out to the other. We found each other. Jarrett visited me often, and in time I learned his songs and more. When he built a small cabin within Home Forest, I hunted his food and fetched his water by day while he studied his books and his magics. By night, by the fire, he'd tell me tales of the world of people. Jarrett is my master and my friend, my teacher and myself. He teaches me and I care for him. I heard this was a place of many people, so here I came. I have seen more faces here in a day than I had seen in all the days of my life together. But I have not found the face I seek. Jarrett is missing. It is my duty to find him. That mystery is thick and ugly as a swarm of hornets. It started with a great disturbance in Home Forest. A terrible disease came in the night and turned the birds and beasts soft and foul as carrion while they still lived. I watched countless of my loved ones die, rotted from the inside. When I ran to Jarrett to tell him what I had seen, his reaction was strange. He had no answer. The next morning, Jarrett did not emerge from his room. I left him be, but after 3 days I grew anxious. I broke down the door, and inside his chamber was nothing. His equipment, his books, all but some scraps of parchment were gone. He was kidnapped, and all his research was taken with him. The only clue I found was a letter among the scraps. I could not make out all the words, but I recognized the threat. Death, coming for you. And the signature? Attenborough. I do not know the one called Attenborough, but I know that if I am to find Jarrett, I must start there. Whoever this Attenborough may be, I believe he or she may know where Jarrett has been taken.
So, what's the bad news? More orcs rampaging through the docks? Or have those infernal statues sent another soul flying to his death? A sheep? That's a whole heap of nonsense. Don't bother me with such wild tales. I suppose you're right. At least if I tell you myself, you'll hear the proper account of things. I buried that blasted sheep, but I swear on my lucky left foot I had nothing to do with that body disappearing. 1 minute it was on my slab, you see. I left the room for just a moment to answer the bell in the front parlour, and when I returned, the body was simply gone. In its place was a sack containing more gold coins than I could even count. The message was clear. Silence is golden. My business has been declining right alongside the rest of our blighted city. And that sack of gold was worth more than I made during one of the good years. I needed cash, and someone needed my silence. I knew I had to bury something or risk being found out. So that night, I stole into the market and made off with Bertia's fattest sheep. It was a bloody waste to stick so much fine meat into the ground to rot, but it had to be done. The next day, the pallbearers retrieved Jake's coffin, sealed to hide the body's terrible wounds, none the wiser that within the casket lay nothing more venerable than a slaughtered beast. Now, you can imagine I've spent more than my share of restless nights wondering who could have wanted that cadaver and for what purpose. I'm not an inch closer to imagining the why, but I've got a few inklings as to the who. Near as I can reckon, there are only 4 people who could have been involved. Mayor Cecil, Captain Aureus, Theleron's apprentice Evelyn, and Esmeralda. Plenty of us shopkeepers entrust the mayor with the spare keys to our businesses, you know. And he's the only person in town with a second copy of the key to the mortuary. He could have used it to sidle in without a peep, if he were so inclined. Aureus himself paid me a visit the night the body was delivered. Came rapping at my door in the frosty morning before the sun had even started peeping, and told me to tell him, and only him, if I noticed anything strange or suspicious about the remains. Can't see why he'd bothered to go through all that trouble, unless he knew something the rest of us don't. I know it sounds strange suspecting the doctor's apprentice of something so ghoulish as this, but there's few in this city could manage to transport a corpse without raising eyebrows. It was she who delivered Jake's body from the inn to the mortuary, and there was something about her that night, some kind of excitement. Seemed she could barely contain her thoughts, that there was something thrilling about to happen. I can't quite settle it in my mind how a young medical professional would have such a strange reaction to an occasion such as that. And this may or may not have anything to do with the whole rigmarole. But her master, Dr. Theleron, bought an old shack of mine, one overtaken by undead, for an exorbitant price considering what he was getting. I never did figure what he wanted it for, but he sure seemed eager. I never saw a widow less distraught at the death of her husband, and I've seen hundreds pass through my parlour. It was she who rang my bell just before the body was snatched, lured me outside claiming she needed air, before discussing the funeral arrangements. Some accomplice could have sneaked in and grabbed the remains while I was comforting the oh-so-overcome Esmeralda. That gold's the only good thing to come out of this blasted affair, and I certainly plan on making some use of it. You know, I reckon Bertia really didn't get a fair shake in all this, did she? Here, take the money and give it to her. Times are hard enough as they are.
Dancing dugongs, you nearly startled me out of my boots. Well, you've got my attention, comrade. Ask away, my friend, ask away. Always helps to know a thing or two about who's covering your back against the gnashing hordes, eh? Frankly, it surprises me you lot are so eager to work with them. In my experience, they're kinda less reliable than used wagon sales dwarfs from Yuthel Gore. Heed me, comrade. You can't trust a wizard, witch, diviner, conjurer, or seer farther than you can throw 'em. Well, comrade, I've been around long enough, but not that long, mind, to know that little in this world can be split categorically into light and dark. My distrust of magic is instinctive after my years as a source hunter, but I also know that, at times, using the enemy against itself is the only way to make a lick of progress. So toss your cadabra elixirs and your illusion scrolls to high heavens, comrades. As long as I don't see a hint of darkness about you, you've got nothing to fear from old Medora. More than I'd hoped, comrade. I don't know what in tarnation's gotten into the townsfolk here, but there's enough dark magic running roughshod to topple a small mountain. There's Mayor Cecil's doings for one, and the mysteries of our master Thalron for another. And on top of it all, the feline menace is lurking at every hearth and shadow. Now, don't get me wrong, I think the mayor's a decent sort, even if he can't hear farther than the tip of his nose. But from what I've heard whispered around the docks, the old guy's gotten himself mixed up in something not quite on this side of the law. I suspect an illegal source artifact or substance is the root of it, but exactly what or who's given it to him, I can't say. And since I haven't technically been assigned to Cecil, I don't have the authority to interrogate him. Fella seems like a humble doctor, but I'll bet my sword he's dealing in something darker than splints and tonics. A loose-lipped legionnaire let slip that she'd seen our good doctor scale the city wall on 2 separate occasions, well past midnight each time. What business could he have among the undead? Hardly the habit of an innocent healer, I'd say. You mean you don't already know, comrade? Their kind can see in the dark. It ain't natural. It's no coincidence the Order retired me, or tried to anyhow, to such an aptly named little town. Way back when, the settlement was chartered as a stronghold for source hunters to keep watch over the borders of the Phantom Forest. Don't let the name fool you, though. These days, the forest is little more than a smattering of trees and ruins. A perfect posting for an old bull and her dotage like yours truly. In the days of old, though, the forest played host to source devils of every make and kind. Hunter's Edge was a settlement of source hunters, tasked with watching over the border of the forest and putting down anything smacking a source that might creep out of it. By now, it's been centuries since anything more dangerous than a badger has come out of those woods. By and by, the source hunters moved out and regular folks set up shop. But the town's charter requires that at least one of our kind remain to keep the watch.
Say, no one's around. You wouldn't raise a fuss if I, borrowed one of these fish, would you?
Borrow, indeed. I'll sooner meet a cat wizard than see that merchant repaid.
Come now, I'll be good for it, I swear! I never would have dreamt of resorting to petty theft during better times, but what choice have I got now? If it's steal or starve, I'll choose steal. Oh, my story's tired by now. I was happy enough, prosperous enough, before these lean times around Cecil began. Still, that doesn't waive a man's need to eat, you know. So what do you think? Should I snag a fish?
Halibut?
That merchant has to eat too, you know. Leave the fish alone.
Yes, you know what they say about giving a man a fish? This man should learn to stand on his own 2 feet.
I suppose you've got a point. Another day, another rumbling belly.
What are ye staring at? Captain Jack's the name, though the title may be a little generous at the moment. My crew ran off, and I can't find enough hardy souls to help me reload the ship and sail off. Those scallywags heard there be silver in the Lacula mines, and they abandoned ship like the lily-livered turkeys they are. Haven't seen them since the day we docked.
But if one were to reduce the quantity of skull dust by a percentage of 2, perhaps the stability could be increased by as much as 3-fold.
Oh, a source hunter. Imagine that. Quite a bit more petite than the last of your kind I encountered, aren't you? Yes, by nearly 20 centimeters of tibia, as my memory serves. But no matter. Even if it couldn't spare its heartier specimen, I'm sure the Order sent the individual with the next highest probability of success. Yeah? Me? Why, I'm more than a little surprised you haven't heard of me. Perhaps I can jog your memory. It was I who cured the Duchess of Arata of her unslakable thirst. A simple pinch of atropa belladonna in her morning tea. I who discovered that aging itself can be halted by a single application of cicuta de glace on the tongue. Not to mention that it's been my guidance that has permitted my apprentice Evelyn to make quite a name for herself around Sicile of late. Yes. If that's how we're referring to the secretive use of a revolutionary healing method she refuses to share with her own master. She's in the other room as we speak. Perhaps you can prevail upon her to offer a demonstration. She's gotten hold of a stone, supposedly capable of fantastic feats of healing, but she won't let me take the briefest look at it. But she claims to have gotten the relic from a little northern town, Silverglen by name, and that an abbot there blessed it with the power to heal. Utter rubbish, I say. But with these blasted undead haunting the travel routes, I can hardly march up to Silverglen to learn the truth myself. Well, she certainly possesses a critical eye and an exacting manner when it comes to making difficult medical decisions. I expect she'll be a very successful healer in her own right when the time comes. She is learning from the best, after all. Certainly, what would you like to know? The counsellor. Terrible loss, that. Though we were hardly more than acquaintances, I knew him to be a devoted civil servant. From what I can tell, it seems to be a simple case of jealousy turned violent. The affairs of his wife, Esmeralda, were hardly a secret, you know. I've applied myself to that problem for 2 years and still haven't come a step closer to solving it. I declare it an act of the Almighty's, if I believed in such things. Some events, Source Hunter, can be neither controlled nor understood by mere men.
That relic of Evelyn's the so-called healing crystal. I've seen one like it before, and by the Patriarch's pockets. It's a relic of Source. One look at that gem will be enough to convince me it's no force of good, but a bloodstone through and through. I've come across such a stone before. It may be capable of healing, as the good doctor describes, but its origins are as dark as midnight. Bloodstone is so named for a reason, you see. What starts as a pretty gem is corrupted by sick sorcerers who infuse it with the blood of the slain. If that stone is what I suspect, I wouldn't trust Sicile's so-called healers any more than I'd trust a pyromancer on a wooden boat.
Excuse me? This is a private sick room. Who in the name of the Seven do you think you are barging in here? Out, I say, right this instant. I'm sorry. It's this task. Who am I to meddle with life and death this way? I'm an apprentice of the healing arts. Healing! But this decision feels like precisely the opposite. I have but one healing stone, you see, and 2 direly wounded men who need it. I've been racking my brain trying to decide on the best method to settle this grave situation, but perhaps it's better off in the hands of an esteemed source hunter. Surely you are more accustomed to weighing life and death than I. What would you like to know? One of the brave few willing to traverse the trade routes plagued by the undead. A young man, but excellent in matters of business, before he fell victim to an orcish club in the north, that is. Thankfully for him, a cattle trader found him, nearly dead, but not quite so, and brought him here straight away. Quite the venerable staple of Sicile, Stephen, and recently blessed with his 3rd grandchild. He was leading a crew of builders when a stray beam struck him in the temple, and only a few days shy of his last day of work before retirement, no less. Nearly everyone in Sicile is familiar with grinning Stephen, and, as you can imagine, he's quite dear to his family. Yes, a curious relic indeed. I got it from a kindly abbot, Loic by name, in the northern town of Silverglen. He is of a certain faith, the Immaculates, they call themselves, that espouses the belief that certain stones can heal wounded flesh. I myself was nothing if not skeptical of his claims, but something happened as he handed me the stone. A small cut on my finger instantly healed, leaving no trace of the wound. Needless to say, I was astounded. But it's strange. The stone is only good for a single use at a time before it reverts to a useless, inert state. It takes time to regain its magical properties, and I guard it cautiously. You are? I thank you a million times for your help. Who have you decided should receive the healing stone?
Boris's life has just begun. We can't cut it short now. He should receive the stone.
Yes, Boris deserves to experience all the pleasures of life that Stephen has already enjoyed.
Boris it is? Yes, I'll deliver the stone. I'm glad we'll get to save one man, but my heart breaks for the other.
I'm feeling stronger already. 1,000 thanks to you, my hero. I promise I won't waste the life you've given me. What will I do? What won't I do? Seeing how short life can be, how easily it can be taken from you. I'll see it all, do it all. And after I've climbed every mountain in Rivalon, and smooched every girl who'll have me, I'll devote myself to learning the magic that saved me. Everyone deserves to feel the thrill of a renewed life. I'll see you around then. I'm liable to spring out of this bed at any minute.
Welcome back, Source Hunters. I've been eagerly expecting you. You found another star stone, haven't you? Go on, ask me how I know. Aha! Mere child's play when you know what to look for, and luckily, I do. Do you remember when you first arrived on this plane, when the dormant portal that led us to this hall sprang to life? It's happened again, my friend. Another portal has reignited. The end of time is growing by the stone. It's all connected somehow. You, this place, the void, the stones. Soon we'll have unraveled the whole truth. Oh, how I do love a good mystery. You don't imagine that I'd presume to explore it before you? No, that would be most unmannerly. And not to mention, well, No, I'm sure it's nothing. It's just that beyond the portal, I sense a presence that I can't quite account for. It is at once powerful and faint. Perhaps only a shadow, perhaps more. But this is only speculation, of course. Come, let me show you the way. Once you're through, you'll be able to report exactly what we're dealing with.
You. It cannot be you. But it can only be you. The Guardians. Those I deceived. Those that deserted me. But oh, how weak you have become. As weak as you used to be strong. Look about you. You used to lead, and now you follow. Ignorant of your faults, and ignorant of your fate. That it has come to this. Woe to the world that it has come to this.
What can I do for you, Source Hunter? And undoubtedly I have answers. I do, for they have demon blood running through their scoundrelly veins. Admittedly, unlike true demons, it is not impossible for an imp to be kind and mean it, to have intentions other than vile. But nevertheless, these scamps are never to be trusted. Their volatility is not only highly annoying, in all too many situations it can be lethal. You are right and you are wrong, Hunter. Right precisely because I was wronged. As you long have guessed, the wound that ever bleeds was inflicted unto me by one of our species. Though in many ways she was beyond human scope. My station was a high one once, until I was brought very low. I learned among the dregs that men are the same everywhere. Whether they approach you in a back alley reeking of sewer, or the jasmine-scented corridors of royal castles, they smile at you warmly, like friends would, as they fondle their daggers' hilts behind their backs. You are right that I lost affection, but I found it again among the beasts, among the stray cats and street dogs with whom I shared my all too meager meals. Over time, the deer of the forest no longer fled when I approached. Birds would gladly perch upon my hand and eat from my palm. I found among them a serenity unseen amid humanity. There you are wrong, because for them, I harbor a vivid love indeed. I am not from any place anymore. I go where my quest leads me. Besides, the name would mean nothing to you. The glorious city in the glorious kingdom where I was born. I remember them well, the sandstone castles, hued like the very sun that batters their battlements without rest. I can see them still. The fountained gardens and halls of pearl-colored marble inlaid with gemstones set in shapes of plants and beasts. Yes, I can see them still, though when I try to focus on their details, like mirages, they dissolve upon approach. Time, it frays the foundations of memory. For 1,000 reasons, and for one especial. The 1,000 obvious ones are list with pleasure. The special one, that is my secret to keep. 1. Their scourge taints the natural world. 2. Their machinations irreversibly corrupt minds. 3. Their perversions seek to end all beauty. 4. Their schemes unhinge the fabric of space and time. 5. Their presence distorts all intrinsic harmony. Hunter, I could find you cross-dressed under the spell of a dominant goblin, yet when next we'd meet there'd be no questions asked. I have my secrets. Undoubtedly, you have yours. They are ours to keep. And so let the hunt continue.
Good to see you on the shelter plane. A home away from home, is it not? Most certainly. Like you, she is a mystery. But she seems to know you, doesn't she? Perhaps you'll meet her again and we'll learn more about her and about you. Ah, yes, the Hall of Heroes. Once upon a time, great feasts were held there in honor of heroes graced by the gods themselves. In that room, mortals and immortals dined side by side. I can't think of a better place to gather new heroes, should you come across such rarities, so that when needed, they can serve you in your quest against the void.
How might I serve our mission? Threads I weave and tales I see. All will I tell. She is one whose history is shrouded in darkness. She is more than a woman, though less than a goddess. She knows you. You have wronged her. She is part of the end, though she longs to be part of endlessness. The threads tell me that once, oh, how many eons lie hidden in so small a word. Once, you strode across that hall in shining armor, a sovereign to all who beheld your might. I can clearly read that armies you have led, demons and dragons you have conquered, that you have ascended. But how can this be now that you stand before me a human, a mortal? How far has your soul fled from the being it used to be? New threads, more threads we need.